Hey, what's going on, everyone? Another year, another update video on the sedan. Right before I started recording this, I watched the last video I made where I said it was going to be done in about a month, and here we are a year later, and it's still not done. So yeah, it's proving to be a lot harder and more time consuming than I thought it was going to be. And it took a really long time to get all the wiring and the fuel lines and all that stuff sorted out. But today, what I want to talk about is how far along the engine has come, and I want to show you guys the shaved bay, the tucked wiring harness, all of that, how to tuck a wiring harness. I don't know. Let's go look at the engine. So, without further ado, here it is. Fully assembled. Everything in there. It's ready to run. Well, I mean, it still needs the power steering reservoir over here, so it'll need that system complete, and then it needs the coolant reservoir over here. And that's pretty much, oh, and the boost lines. You can see we put the boost controller on the engine block down there, but I'll talk more about that after we take off the intake manifold so I can show you guys the Wiretuck. And it also needs the turbo filter, but that's not a big deal. So I've just been getting the car ready. As you can see, it's on these old boys, all of these old winter wheels, because it needs to go to the shop just to get a few more lines made and to be tuned, and that's about it. And it should be ready to go in like 2 weeks. I think they said I should have it next week, so I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on this in the near future because I want to do videos of the first startup and all of that. Anyway, let's get back to this. So this is 100% wired up right now. As you can see, this is just going to be the boost line for the gauge in the cluster, or in the dashboard where the clock pod is. So don't mind that, it's not hooked up yet. Here is the mil-spec wiring harness that my dad and I did, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It was really hard to do. It took like something crazy, like 300 or 400 hours to do this whole wiring harness. But basically what we did was we just modified the stock Subaru harness and split it all up into 16 and 20 gauge wires. Like everything in the harness that was either 16 or 20 gauge, that's what we split it up into. And then you can see we have the starter going in through here, because the fuse box is behind the dashboard right over there, and then the alternator as well. It comes underneath, if you can see that, and goes to the bottom of the alternator because this is flipped upside down. Usually the alternator's here. We relocated it over here, which was a job in of itself. So actually, let's go show the fuse box because I've never shown under the dashboard, because I'm not happy 100% with, you know, it's kind of messy under here, but there it is. That's the new location of the fuse box, and you can see right there is the little module for the sequential shifter. I don't know if that light's doing any good there, but yeah, this is why I don't really want to show under the dashboard. This is what it looks like. It's kind of a nightmare, but it's all together, and it's all zip tied up and good. Nothing's going anywhere. You could see these are the brake reservoirs, or the pedal box reservoirs, all wired up. You can see that down there. I have to move the seat further back because the pedals are so close, because they're mounted on the floor rather than coming from under the dashboard up against the firewall. So yeah, there's a couple things that need to be done like that. Move the seat back, and then it needs to be tuned because it's going from MAF to MAP, just to eliminate wires, because there wouldn't really be a way to cleanly tuck wires from here up under the turbo filter inlet pipe. And if you want to run it without that, you'd have to unplug the MAF, and you can't run it then. So we're going to be putting a MAP sensor, that's these two wires, into the bottom of this piece right here, right in front of the throttle body. And then the only other two wires that are not connected are these blue and yellow wires, which are for the oil pressure, which we don't have a gauge for yet, and I don't know where I would put it anyway, because I don't want to put a random gauge up on the dashboard, because I don't think it would look very clean. But yeah, maybe throw it in the glove box or something, I don't know. But anyway, let's get off this manifold so I can show you guys the wiring harness underneath. Oh, there we go. Alright, so this is how the Wiretuck looks underneath the manifold. You can see everything's been redone. It's still the stock Subaru harness, just we added in sections of it to run it the way we wanted. And literally the best way to build a wiring harness, seriously, jeez, my hands cramping up here, is build it on the car after everything mechanical has been installed. So like any, you know, everything, the piping, every electrical component, literally everything, all your vent lines, your breather lines, all that, someone's phone's ringing, your throttle cable, literally after everything has been put on the car, then build, oops, I'm bad at this, then build your harness around everything if you want to tuck it as neatly as possible. And then you'll have things to run it on too. You'll have things to zip tie your harness to. So the best tip for the harness, I'm just going to switch hands here. The best tip I have for doing a whole wiring harness like this is take the factory wiring harness and just strip all the sheathing off of it, untape everything to see where everything goes, and then label everything, cut out what you don't need, and then just get some nice 16 and 20 gauge mil-spec wiring. I have a bunch of reels of this stuff. I only got 16 gauge red and black because that's all you need, and then all this is 20 gauge, so all these colors here, which make it a lot easier because awesome, a lot of the factory colors are those colors, or you can, you know, something will be like blue and yellow, so you'll just use a blue or whatever. You can buy more colors if you want, but I didn't find it necessary. And then just take your time to lay out everything to where it needs to go. You'll find out what you can bundle together and what needs to be split off, where things need to come out of the harness. And that's pretty much it for, I know it's pretty much it for building a harness, but and then these here, essentially these are just everything that was run through the firewall. It's just, instead of going through the brown, black, and gray connectors, or just through the firewall through a grommet, it's just been cut, and then whatever was inside was run to the back of these, and then whatever went from the engine was run to there. and you can just cut all your wires in half and then label them AA, BB, CC, DD if that works for you. And then just make sure you plug those back in together where you put your bulkhead fittings or your new grommets or wherever you want to run it through. Or you could even use the brown and black and gray Subaru connectors and just relocate them over to here if you wanted. But yeah, that's how the wiring harness turned out. I'm really happy with it. Except for these two things. Just don't look at those two things that aren't plugged in yet. So then the other things that we did to shave and tuck and hide as much as possible is we put the fuel pressure regulator on the back of the block, which is right there. So this is the, oh, and then check this out. This is how the fuel system turned out in the cowl. You have the feed and return. They go through there like that. And then we have the fuel run parallel, and then it returns back on both sides. You can see this is the feed, and then these are the returns. So yeah, it is such a tight package. Got to give a huge shout out to 4-Star Motorsports because they did all of this, lines, crimping, routing, to run everything as cleanly as possible. We also ended up putting the boost controller on the block, like I was saying, as well as an oil pressure sensor on the block. The coolant has been rerouted so it doesn't go into the car anymore. It's welded up on the back there. Everything that you don't need, just chop it out. And yeah, so far the wiring works. We tested the injectors and the coils, and it has fuel. It has fuel pressure. There's no leaks. It has spark. The starter turns over the motor, so everything should work after it has the rest of the lines on it, and it should be able to fire up this week or next week after it gets to the shop. So I'll definitely be showing that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this job, if it's, you know, cluttered, if it's tidy. I feel both ways about it. I feel like there's just so much stuff on a Subaru motor that it's so hard to keep it clean, but when you look at it from back here, I mean, it doesn't get much better. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you have questions about your tuck, your Wiretuck, whatever you're doing, let me know. I'd be happy to try and help. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Have a good one.